It just felt really, really good.
Yeah.
I feel like I finally have a voice. Not that I didn't before. Yes, yeah, yeah. Writing it, I felt free, and then when I did the audible version, the audio version, again, I was like, oh my gosh, it just felt so good. In the end, it does not matter because the story's still the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Christine Brown's new book is now available in stores, and the secrets she's sharing are absolutely shocking. We're looking at insider sister wives information that TLC apparently tried everything they could to keep hidden from the public. Now, all of these details are out there in print for anyone willing to spend $15 to learn what really happened. Based on Parade.com's detailed reporting, this book isn't like other reality TV star stories filled with everyday drama and shallow complaints. Christine has shared documented shocking truths that go right to the core of what fans always wondered about but never had proof of regarding the Brown family relationships and how TLC shaped the storyline. The most heartbreaking story involves what happened when her daughter truly was born. When you hear about Kody's actions while Christine was actually giving birth, you'll see why she's held on to this anger for more than 10 years. But this is only the beginning of a book that reads like a lawyer building a case against both Kody Brown and the TV network that allowed his actions to continue. People close to Christine's book publishing team have shared that several complete chapters were heavily censored or entirely cut out by TLC's lawyers before the book could be published.
Just think about that for a second.
A big television network has so much control that they can actually edit a woman's personal story about her own life. The nerve of it all is incredible, but what it get through their censorship process is still powerful enough to change everything we believed we knew about sister wives. Christine's choice to share these hidden details publicly isn't random timing. Season 20 is on TV right now, showing carefully planned storylines about family relationships and how they've changed over time. But Christine's book works like a backstage explanation, showing the control, manipulation, and real human damage that viewers never see in TLC's polished TV episodes. The timing seems planned, intentional, and honestly very smart. While people are watching cleaned-up versions of Christine's story on their TVs, they can also read her honest account of what really went down when filming ended. It's like getting to check the facts as they happen. But here's where things get even more fascinating. Christine didn't just publish a book and quietly disappear. She's actively pushing back against TLC's efforts to control how she talks about and promotes her own memoir. This has led to canceled book tour stops and what her team politely describes as disagreements with the network's publicity rules. What comes through is the story of a woman who spent years being controlled, manipulated, and kept quiet, who finally decided she was done with anyone telling her which parts of her own story she could tell the world. And that labor story with Truly is when everything about Kody's priorities became completely clear in the most heartbreaking way you can imagine. Picture this moment because it's going to stick with you long after you finish reading Christine's book. She's giving birth to Truly, going through the intense, overwhelming experience of bringing her sixth child into the world. This should be a time when her husband is right there with her, completely focused on helping her through one of the most difficult things a woman goes through. Instead, Kody makes a choice that Christine says was the moment she really understood exactly where she stood in his list of what mattered. He leaves. Not because of a medical emergency, not because another wife was having a crisis, but to go comfort Robyn about her feelings regarding Christine having Truly. Just let that reality hit you. While Christine is going through labor, dealing with contractions, and the physical challenge of childbirth, Kody's main worry becomes taking care of Robyn's emotions about the whole situation. He actually walks away from his wife, who's giving birth to go make another wife feel better about that birth happening. Christine talks about lying there between contractions, understanding the crushing truth that even while she was bringing their child into the world, she still wasn't what mattered most to Kody. The doctors and nurses around her kept doing their jobs, but the one person who should have been there for her, supporting her, being her partner during this huge moment had decided that someone else's feelings were more important than what she needed physically and emotionally. The book explains how she had to finish having Truly basically by herself, with medical staff around her, but left alone by the one person who absolutely should have been there. And it wasn't just a quick trip either. Kody spent a long time away from where she was giving birth, making sure that Robyn felt emotionally okay about Christine going through labor. What makes this betrayal even deeper is when it happened in their marriage story. This wasn't early on when they were still figuring things out. This was after years of being married, after having 5 children together before this, at a time when Christine should have been able to count on Kody being there during such an important moment. The book shows that this experience made something crystal clear for Christine about her marriage that she'd been trying to ignore or make excuses for over the years. It wasn't just about feeling forgotten or pushed aside in the daily routine of managing a plural family. This was about realizing that even during the most important, vulnerable times in her life, she still came second to another wife's emotional wants. Christine describes what happened emotionally after Truly's birth as a major turning point, though it took years before she could fully do something about what she learned that day. She talks about holding her newborn daughter, feeling both thankful for this beautiful life and heartbroken by her husband's decision to put another woman's feelings ahead of his wife's labor experience. But the story about being abandoned during labor is just one part of a much bigger pattern of control and manipulation that Christine was dealing with away from the cameras, including problems that led her to need prescription drugs just to handle filming. What Christine shares next about her experience during season 20 filming will shock anyone who watched those episodes, thinking they knew what was really going on behind the scenes. While viewers saw carefully put together clips of family meetings and relationship talks, Christine was secretly struggling with an oxycodone addiction that started as a direct result of trying to deal with the mental pressure of filming. The book doesn't try to hide this truth or treat it like it's not a big deal. Christine writes honestly about how the nonstop watching, the pressure to perform emotions for the cameras, and the ongoing manipulation in her marriage created stress levels that became physically too much to handle. She explains how she started using prescription pain medication not because she was physically hurt, but because the emotional pain of her situation had become so bad that she needed chemical help just to get through each day. Just think about what this means for every season 20 scene Christine was in. While she's sitting in those family meetings talking about polygamy and relationship problems, she's also secretly dealing with drug addiction that viewers had no idea about. The Christine you see on screen looks calm, well-spoken, and involved in family talks. But the real Christine was taking medication just to get through filming. The book explains how she would time taking her pills to match up with filming days, knowing she couldn't mentally handle the cameras, the fake family conversations, and Kody's behavior without chemical help. She talks about feeling ashamed that she needed pills just to face her own life, but also desperately knowing that filming had become traumatic in a way her mind and body couldn't handle naturally. What makes this truth even more heartbreaking is how it fits into the bigger picture of control and manipulation Christine was living through. She wasn't just dealing with marriage problems or normal family stress. She was being forced to perform her pain on television while being denied the emotional support and real partnership that could have helped her heal in a healthy way. Christine describes how alone she felt during this struggle, knowing that admitting her drug problem could put her children's money at risk through the TLC contract, but also understanding that continuing to film without dealing with her mental state was destroying her ability to work as a mother and person. The book shows that her choice to leave Kody wasn't just about being unhappy in her marriage. It was about realizing that the whole system, including the TV show that filmed their lives, had become poisonous to her mental health and physical well-being. She couldn't keep medicating herself just to survive her own marriage and filming duties. But Christine's prescription drug struggles were happening while even more dramatic behind-the-scenes fights were going on, especially with Robyn, that viewers never saw because certain footage mysteriously never made it to TV. Here's where Christine's book gets absolutely explosive, showing fights with Robyn that TLC deliberately kept from Sister Wives viewers. The book talks about heated arguments during photo shoots that were so intense and so revealing of what the family was really like that the network apparently decided they were too real for television. Christine writes about one specific photo session where months of buried anger finally exploded between her and Robyn in front of the entire filming crew. According to the book, Robyn had been making comments about Christine's parenting choices and her attitude problems that Christine was expected to take quietly for the sake of family peace and TV appearances. But during this photo shoot, something broke. Christine describes finally confronting Robyn directly about her manipulative behavior, her obvious special treatment from Kody, and the way she always made herself look like the victim in situations where she was actually the one causing problems. The book details Christine calling out Robyn's tears as fake performances designed to get Kody's attention and sympathy. The fight got so bad that Robyn reportedly walked off the set, saying she couldn't continue filming with Christine being so hostile. But according to Christine's story, the cameras caught everything, including Robyn's mask completely coming off when she thought the fight was over. The book describes Robyn making dismissive comments about Christine's intelligence and her chances of surviving outside the plural marriage. What's especially telling is Christine's description of how the filming crew reacted to these fights. She writes about crew members who had worked with the Brown family for years looking genuinely shocked at the level of hate and manipulation they were seeing. Some of the behind-the-scenes footage apparently showed Robyn in such a bad light that TLC's editing team couldn't figure out how to make her look sympathetic. Christine also reveals that there were multiple times during season 20 filming where she and Robyn had to be kept apart by production staff because their arguments got so heated. The book describes one fight where Robyn accused Christine of deliberately trying to ruin the show and the family's income, while Christine fired back that Robyn had already destroyed the family and was just mad that Christine refused to pretend otherwise. The book details how these hidden fights revealed the real power struggles within the Brown family. While viewers saw carefully edited clips that kept up the illusion of sisterly concern and family unity, the raw footage apparently showed two women who genuinely hated each other and had stopped pretending otherwise when they thought the cameras weren't watching. Christine writes that she later found out some of this explosive footage was specifically marked by TLC executives as unusable because it showed Robyn in such a negative way that it would have been impossible to keep up the victim story that had been built around her character in previous seasons. But the hidden footage controversy is just part of a much bigger battle Christine was fighting with TLC's legal team, who were actively trying to control which parts of her story could become public knowledge. The book reveals a behind-the-scenes fight between Christine's team and TLC's legal department that reads like a case study in corporate media manipulation. According to Christine's publicist, multiple entire chapters were marked for removal or heavy editing before the book could be published, and the reasons had nothing to do with protecting anyone's privacy and everything to do with protecting TLC's carefully built narrative. Christine writes about getting legal documents from TLC listing which parts of her sister wives' experience she was legally banned from talking about in detail. The network's legal team apparently argued that certain truths could damage the show's reputation and break non-disclosure agreements that Christine had signed years earlier when she was desperate to secure her family's financial future through television. But here's where it gets interesting. Christine's legal team pushed back hard, arguing that TLC couldn't use contracts to silence a woman's account of her own life experiences, especially when those experiences involved psychological manipulation and emotional abuse that happened both on and off camera. The book describes months of legal negotiations where Christine's publisher had to balance TLC's threats with Christine's determination to tell her real story. The network apparently had particular problems with Christine's descriptions of how storylines were manufactured, how family conversations were scripted or heavily coached, and how the editing process was used to create false narratives about family relationships. TLC's legal team argued that revealing these production methods could violate trade secrets and breach contracts. Christine writes about the frustration of having lawyers tell her which parts of her own trauma she was allowed to discuss publicly. She describes getting censored versions of her manuscript with entire sections blacked out, knowing that these blocked portions contain some of the most important truths about her experience with both Kody and the television production process. The book reveals that TLC was especially concerned about Christine's account of how Robyn's victim narrative was deliberately created and maintained through selective editing and scripted family meetings. The network's legal team apparently argued that these revelations could expose the show to criticism about manipulation and exploitation of family dynamics for entertainment purposes. But Christine's team found a fascinating legal loophole. They argued that since Christine was no longer married to Kody and was no longer contracted to appear on Sister Wives, the non-disclosure agreements that tied her down as a cast member had been fundamentally changed by her new circumstances. She was no longer required to protect narratives that had been used to exploit and silence her. The final published version of the book represents a compromise between Christine's desire for complete honesty and TLC's legal pressure for continued silence. But even the cleaned-up version that made it to publication contains enough explosive revelations to fundamentally challenge everything viewers thought they knew about the Brown family dynamics. Christine writes about the empowering realization that TLC's desperate attempts to suppress her story actually proved how damaging the truth would be to their carefully constructed fiction. The more they fought to silence her, the more convinced she became that her story needed to be told. But TLC's control attempts didn't end with the book content. They also tried to dictate how Christine could promote and discuss her own book, leading to a confrontation that would force Christine to make some dramatic decisions about her promotional tour. What happened next reveals just how far TLC was willing to go to maintain control over Christine's narrative, even after her book was already heading to publication. The network's legal team attempted to insert what Christine's publicist describes as controlling narrative clauses into any promotional appearances Christine might make to discuss her book. These proposed clauses were so restrictive that they would have required Christine to submit all interview talking points to TLC's legal department for pre-approval. The network wanted veto power over which podcasts she could appear on, which questions she could answer, and even which specific quotes from her own book she would be allowed to read aloud during promotional events. Christine's response was swift and uncompromising. According to sources close to her legal team, she threatened immediate legal action if TLC attempted to enforce any additional contractual restrictions on her book promotion activities. Her lawyers argued that attempting to control an author's discussion of their published book would constitute an unprecedented violation of free speech rights. The book describes Christine's fury at discovering that TLC viewed her personal story as corporate property that they could continue to manage and manipulate even after she had left the show and divorced Kody. She writes about realizing that the network had never seen her as anything more than a performing asset whose value needed to be protected through legal control mechanisms. But Christine's legal threat went deeper than just protecting her promotional rights. Her team apparently argued that TLC's pattern of attempting to silence her story through contractual manipulation could constitute evidence of a broader scheme to exploit the Brown family through deliberately restrictive agreements. Her ultimatum to TLC was elegant in its simplicity: back off completely from any attempts to control her book promotion or face a very public legal battle about reality television exploitation that would attract significant media attention and cast serious doubt on their entire programming model. The network apparently backed down, but Christine's victory had immediate practical consequences for her upcoming book tour events. The fallout from Christine's legal ultimatum to TLC became immediately apparent when she and fiancé David Woolley started canceling scheduled book tour events left and right. What her team diplomatically called creative differences with TLC's publicity protocols was actually Christine's complete rejection of the network's attempts to turn her book promotion into another carefully orchestrated performance designed to protect sister wives' reputation. According to insider sources, TLC had developed an elaborate publicity strategy for Christine's book tour that would have essentially functioned as damage control for the network. They wanted to position Christine's book as the emotional journey of a woman finding her independence, while carefully avoiding any discussion of the specific ways that TLC's production methods had contributed to her psychological distress and substance dependency. The network apparently prepared talking points that would have required Christine to focus on her personal growth and new relationship with David while deflecting any questions about the manipulation tactics, suppressed footage, or contractual exploitation that she had detailed in the book. TLC wanted Christine to promote her own book without actually discussing its most damaging revelations about the show. Christine's response was to systematically cancel events where these restrictions would have been enforced. Major bookstore appearances, podcast interviews, and media opportunities were scrapped because Christine refused to participate in what she viewed as another layer of manipulation and control. She writes about the empowering decision to walk away from potentially lucrative promotional opportunities rather than submit to TLC's narrative management one more time. David Woolley's support during this process appears to have been crucial. The book describes how having a partner who prioritized her authentic voice over financial considerations was a completely foreign experience for Christine after years of being married to someone who consistently chose money and television opportunities over her emotional well-being. The canceled book tour event sent a clear message to both TLC and the Sister Wives audience. Christine was done performing for anyone else's benefit. She would only participate in promotional activities where she could speak freely about her experiences without network censorship or narrative coaching. This decision cost significant promotional opportunities and potential book sales, but it also demonstrated her commitment to authenticity over profit. After years of having her story managed and manipulated by others, she was finally willing to sacrifice financial gain to maintain control over her own narrative. The strategic cancellations also created a buzz around the book that traditional publicity might not have achieved, with fans speculating about what TLC was so desperate to suppress. What Christine's book Revelations expose goes far beyond just sister wives family drama. Her detailed account of TLC's control tactics, narrative manipulation, and exploitation of vulnerable family dynamics represents a damning case study in how reality television networks systematically abuse the people who generate their content. The timing of Christine's book release during season 20's airing creates a fascinating real-time comparison between TLC's manufactured storylines and Christine's authentic account of what actually happened behind the scenes. Viewers can literally watch sanitized episodes while simultaneously reading Christine's unfiltered descriptions of the manipulation, substance dependency, and psychological control that were happening during filming. What emerges is a pattern that extends well beyond the Brown family. Christine's descriptions of how TLC manufactured conflicts, suppressed inconvenient footage, and used financial pressure to maintain cast compliance mirrors tactics that reality television insiders have whispered about for years across multiple networks and shows. Her book functions as a rare insider's account of how these exploitation systems actually operate. The strategic brilliance of Christine's timing becomes even more apparent when you consider that season 20 was supposed to be TLC's opportunity to rehabilitate the sister wives narrative after years of declining viewership and mounting criticism about the show's authenticity. Instead, Christine's book is systematically dismantling every carefully constructed storyline that the network is currently airing. Industry observers note that Christine's willingness to sacrifice financial security and promotional opportunities to maintain narrative control represents a significant threat to reality television's traditional power structure. Most cast members remain silent about exploitation because they can't afford to lose their television income, but Christine's successful transition to independence has freed her to speak without economic consequences. The book also reveals how reality television contracts are specifically designed to prevent exactly the kind of authentic disclosure that Christine is now providing. Her legal team's successful argument that changed life circumstances had altered her contractual obligations could potentially create precedent for other reality television participants who want to share their authentic experiences without network censorship. What's particularly significant is how Christine's revelations connect to broader conversations about worker exploitation in the entertainment industry. Her account of being forced to perform emotional labor while struggling with substance dependency, all while being denied adequate support or compensation, parallels exploitation patterns that unions and advocacy groups have been fighting across Hollywood. The Sister Wives community's response to Christine's truth-telling has been overwhelmingly supportive, but it's also sparked broader discussions about reality television ethics and the responsibility networks have to protect participants' well-being. The Sister Wives fan base erupted the moment Christine's book hit shelves, and their response has been nothing short of a digital revolution. Facebook groups that once debated favorite wives and polygamy logistics have transformed into investigative communities, cross-referencing Christine's revelations with years of archived episodes to identify exactly where TLC's editing manipulated their perceptions of family dynamics. Longtime viewers are experiencing a collective awakening as they rewatch old episodes through the lens of Christine's book Revelations. The labor abandonment story has particularly resonated with mothers who are now recognizing that Kody's absence during Truly's birth wasn't just poor timing or polygamy logistics, but a deliberate choice that revealed his true priorities. Comment sections are filled with women sharing their own experiences of being abandoned during vulnerable moments by partners who prioritized other people's feelings over their immediate needs. The community's detective work has been remarkable. Fans are creating detailed timelines that correlate Christine's described oxycodone dependency with her on-screen behavior during season 20, noting moments where her responses seemed unusually subdued or disconnected. They're identifying scenes where Christine appeared to be struggling emotionally, but TLC's editing framed these moments as typical polygamy adjustment issues rather than signs of a woman in psychological crisis. Insider sources within the Sister Wives community report that Christine's courage to speak out has encouraged other people connected to the Brown family to share information they've been holding back for years. Former neighbors, community members, and even some production staff are reportedly reaching out to fan groups with additional details that support Christine's account of manipulation and control. The revelation about suppressed footage showing Christine and Robyn's confrontations has sparked particular outrage among viewers who feel deliberately misled by TLC's narrative choices. Many fans are demanding that the network release unedited footage, arguing that they deserve to see authentic family interactions rather than carefully constructed storylines designed to maintain specific character arcs. Social media campaigns supporting Christine have gained serious momentum, with hashtags like Let Christine Speak and TLC manipulation trending across multiple platforms. The Sister Wives community has evolved from entertainment-focused discussion groups into advocacy networks supporting Christine's right to tell her authentic story without corporate censorship. What's particularly powerful is how Christine's book has connected with women far beyond the Sister Wives audience.